Ready to dive into a program that's truly changing the game in education.
I'm in. Let's do it.
We're heading over to Israel, to K College,
Okay.
and we're going to be looking at their Netivim program,
I've heard of this.
which focuses on training Bedouin educators.
Interesting.
But with a twist, it's not just about, textbook learning.
Right.
It's about bridging cultures, about understanding the unique challenges these students face.
And those challenges can be huge, right? I mean, think about it. We're talking about students, many of whom they come from villages that aren't even recognized on official maps.
Wow.
They face incredible hurdles just to access basic education.
That's a whole other level of systemic barrier.
It is. So when you talk about going to college, it's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. So how does the Netivim program even begin to address that?
Well, they've really centered their whole approach around inclusion.
Okay, but what does that actually look like in practice?
It's not just about getting these students enrolled.
Right.
It's about cultivating an environment where they can actually thrive.
Because just being present doesn't equal success.
Exactly. A great example of this was during the pandemic. Think about the sudden shift to online learning.
Right. That threw everyone for a loop.
It did. But for students in these communities, it was even more complex.
You're talking about reliable internet access, quiet study spaces, things many of us take for granted.
Exactly. So Netivim recognized that this wasn't a one-size-fits-all situation.
So what did they do?
They stepped up. They became facilitators. They really worked to improve communication between the students, their families, and the faculty.
To bridge that gap.
Exactly.
Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. Just opening up those lines of communication can make a world of difference.
Right. And it highlights how crucial cultural sensitivity is.
It's not just about the curriculum.
Right.
It's about the entire structure of the program.
It's woven into everything they do. And this sensitivity, it goes beyond just putting out fires for students.
Right.
They're giving them the tools to advocate for themselves.
Which is a skill that's useful for anyone, but essential for educators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the sense of empowerment, it's nurtured further in their Hamana groups.
Hamana groups.
Yeah. Small, tight-knit groups. Think of them almost like a built-in family structure.
It's like having a support system woven right into the program.
I love that. That's incredible, having that kind of built-in support. But how does all of this actually play out in the student experience? What does it look like to go through this program?
So the program itself is structured in a really unique way. It's a year-by-year kind of journey of self-discovery and community impact.
I like it. So let's break that down. Year one, what are those early stages all about?
So year one is about grounding. It's about understanding yourself in the context of what you know best.
Which is?
Your family and your village, the frameworks that you're coming from.
So connecting who they are to who they want to be as educators.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the tools they use is actually pretty cool. They have students build family trees.
But these aren't your typical family trees, right? Like, here are the members of my family going way back.
Right, right.
These trees focus on professions.
Oh, interesting.
Which is not something that's traditionally explored in Bedouin culture.
Wow, so you're not just tracing lineage, you're tracing professional lineage.
Exactly.
I bet that sparks some really interesting conversation.
Oh, absolutely. It helps those students draw those connections.
Between their past and their future.
Exactly.
Very cool. So, year one, looking inward, understanding your roots. Then year two, how does the perspective shift?
So in year two, things broaden out. Students start engaging with the larger Bedouin community as a whole.
Okay.
They start grappling with more complex issues, encountering a wider diversity of viewpoints.
So it's like that transition from me to we, understanding that to make a difference, you have to understand the community.
Yes, exactly. It's about developing a more nuanced worldview.
Which is essential if you're going to be in a position of leadership and influence.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Year three, this is where I imagine things get really exciting. What are the students doing at this point?
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all of that learning, all of that introspection, all that community engagement, it transforms into action.
Okay.
Students actually get to design and implement their own educational initiatives.
Wait, so they're taking what they've learned, they're going back into their communities and putting it into practice.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And they're tackling real-world challenges. I mean, for example, one group, they developed this program teaching Bedouin traditions to children with disabilities.
Oh, wow. So it's not just theoretical. This is hands-on and making a real difference kind of stuff.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Okay, last but not least, year four. What's the focus as these soon-to-be graduates are about to head out to the world?
Year 4 is about sustainability.
Okay.
It's asking those big questions. How do you navigate the professional world?
Right.
And how do you stay true to your values?
To your roots, to the community that you came from.
Exactly. Because it's one thing to thrive in the supportive environment of a program, right?
Right.
But how do you take that out into the world?
And become a leader in your field.
Exactly.
So with a program like this that is so rooted in cultural understanding, how do they even measure success?
That's a great question.
It can't just be about grades.
No, absolutely not. They take a much more holistic approach.
Huh.
And by all measures, they are exceeding expectations.
Okay, tell me everything. What kind of impact are they having?
Well, for one thing, their job placement rate is through the roof. 2/3 of their graduates go on to work in education.
Wow. That's amazing, especially given all of the hurdles that these students have already overcome. That says something.
It really does. It's a testament to that culturally responsive education.
Yeah.
And it's not just that they're getting jobs. A significant number of them are pursuing master's degrees.
So they are going to be the leaders, the movers and shakers.
Exactly.
That's incredible. What about dropout rates? Because I imagine with a program like this, that has to be something they struggle with.
You would think, right. But they've managed to keep their dropout rates incredibly low, around 10%.
Are you serious? How?
I think it goes back to everything we've been talking about, right? The individualized support, the cultural sensitivity, that emphasis on community. It creates this environment where students feel seen and heard.
And that makes all the difference. To feel like you belong, like you're understood.
It really does.
It makes you want to succeed. Okay, this is amazing. I want to hear from the students themselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a quote can be so powerful.
Absolutely.
What did they have to say?
So the document we were looking at, they concluded with this really powerful quote from one of the graduates, and it really stuck with me. And basically what they said was that this program, it gave them the tools, it gave them the confidence to become the best educator they could be.
It's like you said, they're not just creating educators, they're shaping the ideal educator. Someone who's not only knowledgeable, but also deeply connected to their students and their community. Powerful stuff.
It really is. And it makes you think, what if we approached all education this way?
Right. What if we recognize that cookie-cutter solutions just don't cut it?
Exactly. When we meet students where they are, when we understand the challenges they face, that's when real learning, real growth can happen.
It's about recognizing that potential comes in all shapes and sizes.
And it's about giving everyone the tools they need to tap into that potential. It's inspiring, honestly.
It is. It makes you wonder what other amazing programs are out there.
Right. Quietly changing the world, one student, one community at a time.
I love that. And I think that's the perfect note to end on.
It really is.
The Netiven program reminds us that education is about so much more than just textbooks and tests.
Absolutely.
It's about empowering individuals. It's about strengthening communities.
And it's about recognizing that we all benefit from a world where everyone has the opportunity to learn and grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's it for today's deep dive. A huge thank you to my guest for this incredible conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep asking those tough questions. Keep seeking out those hidden gems, because the future of education depends on us embracing new perspectives, new approaches, and above all, a belief in the boundless potential that resides within each and every one of us. Until next time, stay curious.